Crew. We're talking about your kids today. Of course, exactly what we all want to talk about is our babes. If you don't have kids, think about your nieces and nephews or your neighbors' kids, as we all observe. We all observe ourselves and everybody around us. So now it's just to take that up a notch. If your kid is struggling to sit up straight, from the time they're 1 or 2, as soon as they sit, if they're sitting at the dinner table and they're slouching, if they're sitting on the couch and they're slouching, if they're sitting anywhere on the floor and they're slouching and looking forward, or as soon as you tell them to sit up straight, they do for a while and then they kind of slouch again. We know that when the spine doesn't move, the frontal brain doesn't fire. So if we are dealing with a spinal issue or a muscle strength challenge in the back of our body, so in extensor, the muscles in the back of our body are called extensors. They extend us up and out. And if those aren't firing properly, the brain is not going to get the messages of executive function for behavior, thinking, neurological development, emotions, mental, all of the things in executive function are in the frontal brain. That comes from the proprioceptors in the posterior spine. And so if no matter whenever it started, most of the time, if an 8-year-old or 12-year-old or a 16-year-old that I see has poor posture now, they can go, Mom can remember right when it started at 2 or 3. I was always telling Janie, sit up straight, and she never could. That doesn't mean that she wanted to slouch. That meant that this could not be sustained for long periods of time because the brain wasn't firing, the spine wasn't moving, the extensors weren't strong enough. And there's a core issue, and when that core can't hold in and up, we're going to do this. Now, you could do therapy for core strength, but if the spine isn't moving and the brain isn't firing, that's where you have to start, right? You could do, in a 12-year-old that has poor posture, you could do strength training on the back side of that body. So always think of like rows or lat pull downs, push-ups, planks, any kind of yoga Pilates training that really strengthens the back of your body and increases flexibility. That, without the spine moving and the brain firing, is only going to get you so far. So guys, please, if your child is having a hard time sitting up straight, or just innately goes into the C curve slouch, think if they're on the couch, right? They're Indian style, they're slouched, their low back starts to tuck under and their shoulders start to roll forward, their head starts to go. Wherever that head is going is where that brain is going to follow. And so now we don't have any movement in the spine. Movement in the spine that triggers those proprioceptors are in extension. So that spine needs to move. Exercise, posture, walking, all of those things. When we sit forward, when we're inactive, when these kids sit in their desk for 8 hours and are slouched forward, we're not getting proper input into the brain. That is chiropractic. We need the spine to move to get proper input back to that brain. And if your kiddo is not able to sit up straight, if you notice core strength is weak and they're just kind of floppy, or maybe they're not able to skip, they're not able to run without their limbs going outside of midline, then we know the spine is not moving and the brain is not firing. Start there. Get your kids checked. If you're not local, somewhere here, message me and I'll find somebody that really focuses on how to get the brain working better, how to get the brain firing better so that the muscles can get the information they need to get to start to fire and start to build strength in that extensor. The core can start to build. And as we continue to get things flexible and moving, the brain heals, the body heals. That's when Mom and Dad will say, man, Johnny's so much more coordinated, doesn't trip and fall all the time. Or I even noticed that he or she is walking either not pigeon-toed or not toe walk. I noticed that the gait is starting to change. I noticed that they can lift more when they're in weightlifting class. Those are the things that mean that the foundation is starting to build. And when we get that spine and brain to communicate and connect, that's when the miracles happen. So get your kids checked if you feel like they're slouching. It's not a posture problem, although posture is the window to the spine. It's a spinal brain nervous system challenge.